Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another knowledge session at Kotak Mutual Fund. Today, we have with us a senior portfolio manager, Mr. Harish Krishnan. Harish doesn't need any introduction. A lot of you all have met him, interacted with him in the past, and heard him also through various conference calls that we have been doing over this period of time. But just for everybody's consumption, Harish has been with the firm for more than 10 years now. He used to manage some of our offshore strategies based out of Singapore and subsequently moved to India to look after the India dedicated funds. Currently, Harish oversees the Kotak Blue Chip Fund, which is our large cap strategy, the Kotak Pioneer Fund, which was the NFO we launched in the year 2019, which looks at investing in themes which are sort of pioneering in the industry, both domestically, and there is a component which also invests in a Canadian-based offshore fund, which looks at investing in such kind of strategies. The Kotak Infrastructure Fund and the Kotak Balance Advantage Fund. Now, today, the topic of discussion is going to be the Kotak Balance Advantage Fund that we have to discuss with Harish. Harish, welcome and happy to have you with us as always. So to begin with, I thought before we begin in talking in depth in terms of the Balance Advantage Fund, we just thought we'll take a quick overview in terms of how do you see the markets at currently? I think from a complete gloom and doom to the way the markets have moved in the last 2 months, it's like obviously surprised a lot of people. So if you could just quickly give us a take on your views on the market.
Sure, and it's wonderful to have this interaction format. So clearly, markets have surprised, and I think it's in the nature of markets to both surprise positively and negatively. When we discuss the Balance Advantage Fund, we'll bring into this insight of why we need to have a model so that we can be less surprised by these surprises. So clearly, for the moment, the two key points that seem to be on everybody's mind is that we are moving from a phase of lockdown to unlock, which means that incremental data points will start looking up, though it is for a very near term. The second data point is, of course, we've had one round of stimulus, somewhere close to Diwali, the festive season, where there typically is a lot of consumption. Hopefully, we will be having some more rounds of stimulus that provide some more impetus for growth. And it is in the midst of both of these that we've seen from the lows a decent rally. Of course, in the context of the bigger picture, it is an encouraging development. However, in the near term, it does appear that it's kind of overextended for the year.
Yeah, great, Harish. Happy to have your views on the outlook on the market. So, and in with context to Balance Advantage Fund that you just also mentioned in your initial remarks and comments, we just wanted to know that how do you decide on the equity allocation? I mean, the Balance Advantage Fund, yes, it's a model-based fund. So, if you could just, for the consumption of our viewers and people who are hearing you on this particular YouTube video, if you could just tell us in terms of a little bit about the model and how do you decide the equity allocation within that?
Right, I think that really is the heart of the product of Kotak Balance Advantage Fund. So like I said, everybody loves to buy low and sell high, and invariably, be it amateurs, be it professional money managers like ourselves, we get caught in the moment. When things are good, we try to amplify the good. We see only positive news flow, and equally when things are bad, we see only gloom and doom everywhere. And nothing can possibly give a greater reflection than what we've seen in the last 3-4 months, where we've seen both extremes in a very short span of time. Which is why the heart of this product literally is the model. Now, very quickly, the model is a two-factor model. In these two factors, primarily what we are looking at, the first factor is valuations, wherein we look at trailing price to earnings. And the second factor is a composite variable, which we call as a sentiment gauge. And a combination of both of these we try and run to arrive at what is the optimum level of equity that can help investors have a better risk reward at any point of time. And that is how we execute on a live basis the Kotak Balance Advantage model.
Harish, as you mentioned about the models and you mentioned about certain valuation tools, and you emphasized on PE ratio. Do you also have? I mean, there are certain peers of us in the industry. They follow the PB model, and so what is our take on that? I mean, why PE is a more better indicator over the PB model?
Right. Clearly, when we look at markets in India for the last 20, 25 years, there are various phases of market. For example, the com side, where very asset-light businesses tend to do exceedingly well, like the IT services. Then you have the infra real estate segment of sheet heavy, asset heavy businesses tend to do very well. And then you have the FMCG kind of a wave, and now you have till recently the financial wave. Now, whenever each of these segments have a disproportionate weight in the index, for example, in India, for example, in Nifty, till a few months ago, financials used to have almost as high a weight as 42%. So when you have such disproportionate weights in any of these, key business areas, it tends to skew from a price to book perspective. Of course, this doesn't mean to say that price to book is a bad measure. In a way, it is also a very fundamentally important gauge of the business cycle. But the earnings measure therefore gives a far more consistent approach, which we can use over all of these cycles. To put it in numbers, if you look at, say, price to earnings, broadly over the last 20-25 trading years of history that we have, price to earnings has broadly moved between 10 to 30. To book has peaked at, say, 6 times. In certain cycles, it has peaked at even 2.5 times. So therefore, to have a scale only of price to book becomes a slightly more incongruous way of looking across various regimes, and which is why we moved into price to earnings. This is not to say that price to book is any inferior, nor is it suggestive that if price to book has say pointing to a direction like this, price to earnings will follow a diametrically different direction. The extent of difference might be if something is pointing here, something else might be pointing a bit more in the similar direction. So directionally, both of them will point to the same extent of either being cheap or being expensive. Of course, the magnitude of that direction might be a bit more nuanced when it comes to price to earnings compared to price to book, and which is why we use primarily the trailing price to earnings, which has been a far more consistent measure of valuations over the last 25-30 years that we have seen in India.
Harish, besides, I also mentioned the variables that are taken into consideration in the model. So, how often do you run the model, and how often do you look at rebalancing the portfolio based on what the model has been suggesting?
Like I spoke about, Manish, the first factor that we use is the valuation factor, which is the trailing price to earnings. The second factor is a sentiment gauge. And the sentiment gauge is a multi-composite kind of a factor where we look at 3 or 4 key indicators. One indicator is rolling returns. If you've got, say, 5-year, 7-year rolling returns and you plot it off Nifty, you typically get a clustering of returns around 12 to 14%. Just to put up example, let's say that the last 5-year Nifty returns have been 20% return. Chances are that the next 5-year rolling returns of Nifty might be inferior, which is how we get that average data point of 12 to 14%. Similarly, conversely, if let's say we were at minus 3%, which is where, for example, Nifty was at 7,600 levels. That's an extreme data point of rolling returns, right? And which is where we need to move up the gauge quite significantly from an equity allocation point of view. So that is one factor. The second factor that we look at is the volatility of the overall markets. At extreme points of volatility, it's generally a good occasion to be contrarian to what the market is kind of telling. Similarly, the breadth of the market. If let's say out of 1,000 stocks, 900 stocks are close to all-time highs or hitting 52-week highs, that also gives a sense that there is too much exuberance in the market. Similarly, if out of 1,000 stocks, 900 stocks are close to 52-week lows, which was the case sometime around Feb and March of this year. Again, it's time to kind of reverse and be contrarian. So composite of all of these is what we put in together as a sentiment gauge. Now coming to how frequently we run this entire exercise, we do this on a daily basis, and that in a way is what gives this engine such amazing ability to be very quick and agile, and also to be very disciplined. So we don't wait for an expiry or a 3-month or a seasonal averages of daily moving averages, etc. How they move. We run this on a daily basis. Now, does that mean that every day the model changes? Absolutely not. So our experience has been, let's say that of the last 250 trading days, where we've seen bouts of volatility, right? On an average over the last 250 trading days, there have been changes in the model in 50 of those trading days. So effectively, whenever there is a change in the model, we implement it as fast as possible, because we run it on a daily basis. That means the implementation of what the model throws, execution permitting, we will try and execute at the fastest possible time.
Hari, given that aspect, in the last 1 year, in terms of your equity allocation in the balanced advantage fund, what range would it have moved in?
So I think over the last 18 months, we've seen all kinds of markets, and which essentially has given us our ability to demonstrate the power of the model. So we've traversed. Just for the benefit of the viewers, the Kotak Balance Advantage Fund can vary from 20% at the minimum net equity to about 80% at the max. And we've pretty much moved the entire range. So at the lowest, if my memory serves me right, has been about 25%. Which we did in sometime in 2018, and the highest has been about 80%, which we've done it in March, April of this year. So we've traversed the entire journey of that the mandate or the broader contours of the product during these 18 odd months that the markets have been specific for. Because we've seen a significant drawdown in the markets. We moved from about 35%, sometime in January end. And then, like I mentioned, we took it up all the way up to close to about 80% sometime in March. So that gives a sense as to how quick the model is, and more importantly, how responsive it is to various changes in market sentiment as well as valuation, and also how effectively we've kind of with discipline both allocated into equities when they were cheap, and has subsequently have booked profits when markets have had a reasonably good run from the lows of 76.
So, effectively, the model or the equity component or the equity portion was fully invested right at 80% hit in the month of March, April, where you probably saw the markets at all-time low. As we speak currently, where would the equity allocation be as per the model?
So as of today, it's at about 64%. And that is where the live portfolio also is. So we booked a reasonable amount of profits as markets have bounced back. A big chunk of that profit we've taken in the last 5-7 trading days.
So, I'm just wanting to know that the way the model is working, I mean, is it predictive by nature, that it's like sort of being able to capture the best opportunities from a market point of view, as you mentioned, fully invested in the month of March, April, now sort of book profits and brought down to 60-64%. So I mean, just for just out of curiosity, I mean, is this model started to develop predictive capabilities?
Not at all. I don't think markets are a strange animal, and it humbles be it models or be it professional money managers or even any enthusiast of the market, right? So one is always a student of the market, even if it is a computer or a algorithm, or including ourselves, right? And therefore there is no vanity at all that we can claim that our model is a predictive model. And I think it will be true for all models that none of these models are predictive. Effectively, what we are saying is that we've looked at the last 20-25 years of trading history, and this is an asset allocation product. This is not a product which is trying to say that, hey, markets have gone up and therefore from tomorrow onwards markets will start correcting, or markets have become cheap and therefore markets will start going up. All it tries to try and guide the fund manager is to try and see how the risk of a drawdown of not being invested at those levels as suggested by the model, does it kind of outweigh the risk of being invested at that quarter. So it's kind of an optimizing kind of a function to the risk of the downside. While clearly we all worry about the risk of a drawdown, but an equally bigger risk is, the opportunity loss, which is what, especially when markets are down, people keep saying that, why have we invested? Because that was a constant barrage of questions that we kept getting in March, that, there are many other balanced advantage funds which haven't kind of increased. You kept on increasing, and therefore we've seen drawdowns far more. Of course, it's only in hindsight that we can gauge the effectiveness of any model. But what I'm trying to say is that what we are trying to look at is the journey of that investor. So in some sense, it is like, a slow local to a fast local. The journey of an investor is to move as fast in life to his goal of, maximizing wealth, or of compounding wealth. Now, of course, when markets are falling, we all like to be in a slow local. We want to fall lesser and lesser. But at some point, we need to make that switch from the slow local to the fast local, because that is the ultimate journey that we are trying to kind of deliver for the investors, and which is where we make that switch. And in certain cases, for example, in March, there were 5 trading days when Nifty fell from 9,100 levels to 7,550 levels. 5 trading days. In those 5 trading days, our average exposure went from 52% to 72%. Now, that is a kind of agility that, having a daily running. Now, on those 5 days, if you measure how the fund performs, obviously it will be bad in relation. And I don't think, I'm not trying to defend or say, but what I'm trying to say is that the investor's journey is much beyond those 5 days. Clearly, the investor's journey is maybe 3 years, 5 years out the line. But he needs to experience a far smoother journey. And that is what the product is all designed for. It is not a predictive model. There is nothing at all to suggest that, if you have brought it down to, say, 64%, doesn't mean that markets are heading down. Honestly, the market doesn't know, nor does the fund manager know who runs it on a daily basis. But it just predicts what is the optimum level based on the last 25 years of trading history, where the risks and rewards lie from an asset allocation perspective.
Great, Harish. Harish, just on the equity component, the 64% that we are currently invested, how are you? What's the strategy? Is it large cap oriented? Is it a multi cap strategy? How are you managing it between various market capitalizations?
What we've set out is that this will be primarily managed as a large cap biased multi cap strategy. Now, as clearly evidenced, we are in a zone where valuations are rich. I think, notwithstanding the correction, compared to the historical ranges where valuations used to be at 15, 16 times, given the fact that earnings have disappointed for a series of years, valuations are expensive. Now, in that context, we will get average equity exposure of only about, say, 30 to 40%. Of course, there will be brief moments of time wherein valuations can normalize and correct, and therefore we take up those opportunities to go up all the way close to as high as possible. So what we've set out is, whenever we get those opportunities to move to, say, 60, 70, 80, higher, that is a time where we'll increasingly take more and more mid and small caps. And as we are closer towards, say, the 20s and the 30s and the 35, 40s range, we'll be more and more. This is a directional statement. It doesn't mean that at every point of time, we'll obviously keep ratcheting up. Obviously, it depends on opportunities, liquidity, etc., etc. But broadly, that's the direction where we are in. As regards to what is the current positioning, we are about 75% in large cap and about 20 to 25% in mid and small caps at this point.
Harish, any sectors or any specific sectors that you are overweight in within the Balance Advantage Fund? If you could just give a little bit of color on that to our viewers.
So I think the way we've positioned the Balance Advantage Fund, while there is a lot of change in equity levels because we run the model daily, effectively we have a core of the portfolio, and then we've got those the way the model changes, which primarily we take through futures, both through Nifty futures or Bank Nifty futures. So as the core churn effectively is actually very low. It is like any of our normal equity funds, which is in the region of say 30 to 40% annualized churn rate or annualized turnover rate. So given this construct and what we've set out is we need to be diversified as a product. We are not looking at this as a high conviction focused kind of a product where we make outsized alpha. The idea is to make more money by asset allocation. Of course, stock selection, sector selection is important. One can't wish away that. But to have a diversified basket, and like I said, to be more in large caps, especially during down times, especially when the equity levels are low, and to move it. Now, specific to the sectors, there have been about 3 or 4 key sectors that we've been positive for almost the last 18 months or so. The first space is on the insurance space, insurance, cards. These are the liability or the savings products. Effectively, we are all part of the same industry. The household savings. So any of those product suites, as far as the financial services are concerned, that's an area where we've been positive for quite some time. The second area that we've been positive for a reasonable amount of time has been the gas space. This has been a recurring theme that we are an energy importing country. A lot of energy gets imported, and gas, in our opinion, is a very ideal fuel at this point of time, for us to consume, and therefore we've been positive on that space for a reasonable amount of time. The third space that we've been positive on is early cyclicals of what we call FMIG, fast-moving industrial goods. Effectively, early capital goods, early cyclicals capital goods, early industrials, cement. This is a space that we've been positive on. The fourth is, especially in this kind of an environment post-COVID, it appears that the global businesses, because their governments have been and supportive of their overall economies, purely by virtue of the fact that they can, in terms of their ability to spend, has meant that global business chains are much better. So we've got pockets of chemicals, we've got pockets of IT services, we've got pockets of pharma and healthcare, which cater to the global value chains that we've been positive on. So these are the 3-4 key sectors effectively that we've been positive on for a reasonable amount of time, and that really has been true even now in a post-COVID.
Harish, finally, the last and the most important question in this time, with the kind of volatility investors have seen, both someone who was probably thinking of taking an exposure to equity for the first time, or to existing investors, Balance Advantage Fund, the Kotak Balance Advantage Fund, how would you position it? Is it only for someone who's looking to come into equity mutual funds for the first time, or you think this is a product that is like suitable to any segment of investors?
So I think this is an asset allocation product, and this, in my opinion, is at the heart of allocation for every investor who wants to have equity in his portfolio. To my mind, one is the investor class that you alluded to, which is a first-time investor, and there is a lot of jargon and a lot of noise in terms of asset class, whether to be in debt, whether to be in equity, PE ratios. There's a whole lot of jargons, and in some sense, this is a product that is automatic, and effectively that's our tagline, right? Kotak Balance Advantage Fund, it's automatic, and we've demonstrated over the last 18 months how seamlessly agile and disciplined we've taken all the way from 20-25% all the way to about 80% in a matter of 18 months. And clearly for someone who's new to the markets, who doesn't understand all of these terms, I think this is a must-have kind of a product. The second is, of course, from a concept of people who are looking at a lump sum. Now, obviously, when you've got a lump sum, you feel by virtue of having sold off some piece of land or a retirement fund, etc., etc. Given the fact that the model and conversely the fund manager takes that asset allocation call depending on market sentiment, depending on valuations from a slightly more medium term perspective, this typically tends to have a far better impact in terms of the investor journey, wherein he sees lesser drawdown. It doesn't mean that there is no drawdown. Really, if markets fall 30-40%, there is no way a product which is linked to markets will not experience drawdowns. But that is the time when we need to step up, and that is what we've shown, that the volatility of the fund is a fraction, maybe 30-40% of what the underlying Nifty volatility is, and while giving similar or broadly similar returns to what the equity market gives.
Perfect. Harish, always a pleasure chatting with you. Lovely to get your insights both on the markets and specifically on the Balance Advantage Fund. And I'm sure that the information that you shared with us will be something that our viewers will appreciate tremendously. And thank you once again for taking time out of your schedule to address these queries. And have a lovely day.
Likewise, it was a pleasure interacting with you, Manish. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.